Standing on the top now. No, nothing can move you.
Mitch McConnel, news political commentator on MSNBC. That's a shame. We got an Arab brother that has the balls to call out James Clyburn in his face and don't care whether he come back on the show or not. But you got people like Mark Lamont Hill. You got people like Joy Reid. You got people like Al Sharpton who would never push back. They just let that man say whatever he need to say and never get a pushback. Well, that wasn't happening with Mitch McConnel. Mitch McConnel definitely came with the pushback. Let's go over this real quick.
Congressman, thanks so much for coming back on the show tonight. It's been 6 months since the insurrection on Capitol Hill. You tried to impeach and convict Donald Trump. You tried to get a bipartisan commission with the people who wouldn't impeach him or convict him. Now your party has this select committee that's not yet up and running. When do you think we'll actually see some results from that committee, see some investigating done?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think it's all going to depend upon the minority leader. He's now saying that he's going to appoint 5 members to serve. And when they get together, I'm assuming...
Now, before we get into this, I forgot to do this. Bear with me. In good faith, this work contains fair use of copyright and non-copyright images from the public domain and web for non-commercial or non-profit educational purposes. This work is distributed free of charge. Not charging nobody nothing. I don't make no money doing this anyway, so well, whatever. The author has neither monetized his work nor sought any profit from its distribution. No, I never do. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976 says allowances made for fair use for the purpose such as criticism. We're about to criticize some stuff today. Comments, we're going to talk about this. News reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, but nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This work contains original work of commentary and critical analysis. Quotations are attributed to the original authors and its source. So I had to get that out the way because you know how these suckers do over here on YouTube. So let's get right back into it.
The 13 will sit down and develop some timetables. I don't think they ought to rush into this. This is something that we need to take our time. It's already occurred, as we said.
So already he's not trying to rush a process concerning the so-called insurrection. He wants to take his time and drag this out. That's what these Democrats do, especially these Democrats do. They don't want to get nothing done. They want to sit there and drag stuff out.
We know exactly when it happened. We know a whole lot about where it happened. We just don't know why and who made it happen. They should take their time to find that out.
It's a fair point. I guess the counter-argument would be 6 months is a long time from an insurrection to have done no investigating, especially when the Republicans are trying to rewrite history, as you know, and they're still pushing this big lie about the election. It's been 2 weeks, in fact, since Senate Republicans used their filibuster to block Democrats from passing S1, the For the People Act, which has already passed in the House. I want to play you something the Vice President said today. Have a listen.
These laws make it harder for you to vote because they don't want you to vote.
Now, this lady, oh God, oh Jesus, help me. She's so phony, it's ridiculous. And I know some of you black people love Sister Girl and figured that she should be up there with Harriet Tubman and God knows whoever. You want to make her an icon in Black history, and to me, she's just a con. She's telling us stuff that we already know here. That's all she do is she go over a history lesson over the stuff that we already know. She never tells us something that's really going to help us.
Don't let anybody ever take your power from you. Don't let anybody take your power from you, especially the power of your voice. We will not let anyone take away our power. And that's why we are all here together today. We're not going to let that happen.
When the vice president says we're not going to let that happen, the problem is it's already happened. The filibuster was already deployed. I know you congressmen support getting rid of the filibuster in this context, and I'm glad you do. But Senate Democrats haven't gotten rid of it. And until today, the White House hadn't said or done much on S1. Is there a plan B to save our democracy? I mean, either there's an existential threat that needs dealing with right now, or there isn't. Am I wrong?
Now, look, I'm kind of in the middle of this filibuster thing, because when the Republicans was in the majority, we did not want to get rid of the filibuster. We did not want to get the filibuster, but now the Democrats pretty much has it in the majority, holding the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They want to get rid of the filibuster, but let them have a table turn in power, and you're going to find out that they don't want to get rid of the filibuster. So I'm sitting here on the front of this thing saying, filibuster, whatever. The point is, you got the majority and you can make things happen. You claim you got the majority, you can make things happen. You have a president that's supposed to be a Democrat, it's supposed to be for the people. You got a vice president who said, we are not going to allow this stuff to happen. They have the power of the pen where they can do executive orders. But they always want to try to get something with the majority of the Republican approval. When Donald Trump was in office, he could have cared less about the filibuster. When Donald Trump wanted something done, he would railroad you all. He would run them over to get it done. But as soon as the Democrats get in power, they don't want to have that same energy. They want to drag stuff out. So my opinion on the filibuster don't matter anyway, whether you get rid of it or not. Whoever's in power, they're going to be complaining about the filibuster, whether we should bring it back in or whether we should get rid of it again. You know, the bottom line is right now, the Democrats have the House, Senate, and the presidency, and there's no excuse. Stop using Joe Manchin as an excuse. First it was Mitch McConnell. Now it's Joe Manchin. Stop making these excuses for these scapegoats. Joe Manchin is just a scapegoat for a president in Joe Biden that don't want to get nothing done in the first place. So he's going to try to act like he want to get something done, but he's going to point the finger at Sinema, Joe Manchin, some members of the Congressional Black Caucus to say, hey, look, they're the one blocking our progress. Nah, bro, you want this to happen. Bottom line, if it come to your table, you ain't going to sign it unless you're forced to sign it.
Well, remember on two things. First of all, I know it's been 6 months since January 6th, but it was almost 18 months before the Congress responded legislatively to 9/11. So I don't think that we need to worry about 6 months thing. Let's make sure we get it done so it won't happen again. Now, as for voting, I do feel very strongly that we have got to have a legislative response, and it needs to be done by the middle or the end of September. And I think it can be done. We know that we're not going to have congressional elections until next year. We know that the new numbers will come out from the Census Bureau in September. And I think we ought to have in place a bill coming out of the Senate that will do two things. Number one, incorporate that which is found in H.R. 1, at least those things that they can agree upon, and what is in H.R. 4, the pre-clearance part of H.R. 4. They ought to just combine those two bills.
Now, you see what it says on the ticker at the bottom? Vice President Harris announced the DNC will spend $25 million to protect voters' rights. Why is her announcement? Why isn't it Joe Biden announcing that the DNC will spend $25 million to protect the voters' right. And the DNC is a separate organization on its own. It's a corporation. It's not even a political party. It is a corporation. It is labeled a corporation. So how a president is going to be pushing the DNC to spend money on voters' rights? And by the way, what happened to the woman who pushed hard for voters' right in Georgia? Why she's not in charge of the DNC? Why is Jamie Harrison in charge of the DNC? How in the hell did he get it be in charge? What did he do to earn that position? He didn't do what Stacey Abrams doing. But just like they always do, white people in both parties use up black women and throw them to the side. Yet they'll try to prop them up and let you know we still love you and give you all that kind of energy to make you think you're really doing something for the party. But the bottom line, you ain't getting no power. Same thing happened with Ayanna Pressley. Ayanna Pressley tried to run for that position in Massachusetts. The Democratic Party said, kiss my behind. We're going for a Kennedy. Our revolution had to pick her up. Let me keep going. I'm sorry. Vice President Harris announced that DNC will spend $25 million to protect voters' rights. So if you are contributing to the Democratic Party, that money is supposed to go to build platforms for people to run on, but they're taking your money, the so-called Try to Stop Voters' Rights Act. Every time you come on YouTube, you got Stacey Abrams talking about give to the Democratic Party, give to Act Blue, because they're trying to stop voters' rights. None of that money is going to stopping voting rights. That money to stop voting rights has to come from the state, that state in which they're trying to stop these people from tampering with our voting system, or tampering with voting laws, or changing voting laws. Most of these things are happening state by state. They're not happening nationally. But yet these fools going to try to ask for your money. And what they're going to do with that money? Nothing. They're not going to use that money to try to fight voting rights. Well, let me keep going.
Take them to the floor in the Senate, pass it, and then let's do what is necessary to have fair and unfettered elections. And I think you can do that in two ways. Yes.
No, please tell us your two ways, and then I'll come back in.
The two ways you can do that by carving out a workaround of the filibuster as you've done for the budget. We can do the civil rights and constitutional rights questions. They should not be subjected to a filibuster, just like we don't do for the budget. We don't let any one person jeopardize the full faith and credit of the United States of America, and we ought not let anyone hold anybody's constitutional right in their hand. And the second way you can do that, quite frankly, is that making it a record.
I'm keep going because I don't understand nothing he's saying right now.
Well, I never feel that just because I have not been a party to the discussions, that the discussions didn't take place. I believe in being transparent, but I also believe that we ought to make headway before we make headlines. And the problem we get so often is the headlines get out in front of the issue, and it jeopardizes the ability to make headway. So I am convinced that there are people talking. I have not advertised the 1 hour discussion I had with Joe Manchin. Voter ID laws we've always had. I keep in my pocket a voter registration card. I present that card every time I go vote. That's IDing myself. What I'm talking about there is photo ID that says a hunting license photo is good and a student activity card photo is not good. And that's the problem with tweeting. You use these shortcuts and people cut off what you're talking about.
Now, I'm going to stop there for a second because you might disagree with me on this particular issue. I live in New York State. You have to have a government issued ID in order to vote. Government issued ID, whether it's from the city or the state, you have to have an ID to vote. in New York City, supposed to be one of the most progressive states in the country. But you still got to have an ID to vote. If the card is not registered from a local government, you can't vote. Now, do I think that's fair? No, but you'd still have to properly ID anybody because it's not easy to make a fake ID. I ain't saying you can't do it, but it's not easy. But having a hunting license in most states are issued by the state. But having a student ID is not issued by the state, it's issued by the school. Now, personally, I think that should be enough for you to vote. If you can prove that you're a student and you're registered at that school and you put that down as your address for that particular city and state, you should be able to vote. But I'm not the one writing the laws. Most places, you have to have a state issued ID or a ID coming from the local jurisdiction. Now, is that voter suppression? I can't say that when we had people back in the day telling us that we had to count jelly beans in the jar. Now, that was voter suppression. We had to pay all these poll taxes. But me having a different kind of ID, and me personally, I think, hey, just get your ID. Don't make it, hey, this is nothing we need to be arguing over for saying voter suppression because somebody asked you to have the ID. Now, if you're challenging my ID, that's a different story. No, if I got a state ID, you should be able to vote. In New York, if you got a state ID, no matter what kind of ID it is, whether it's a security guard license, whether it's your babysitting license, whether it's your hunting license, boating license, it is still considered an ID to go vote. But if you come up with some Mickey Mouse College student ID that not, especially when it's not funded by the state, then they're going to challenge you on that. But that's just me. You may disagree. I get it if you disagree.
Fair enough. And you think that you and Joe Manchin both agree that photo ID isn't necessary?
It's not necessary. He even talked about someone bringing their utility bill.
Now, see, I can't agree with that. How can a photo ID is not enough to go vote? And I know you say, Robert, you sound just like a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a human being that's trying to make some sense. I can't go into a club without showing me an ID. I can't go to the liquor store unless they know me from coming in the liquor store. But even at my age, I still show my ID. Heck, I don't even like people asking for my credit card without checking my ID because anybody can have my credit card. So I don't know what's going on with them two, but I have no problem with you IDing yourself because if you're not any old scraggler come out here and vote, and it is not necessarily have to be a Democrat. It could be a Republican that shouldn't be voting when they don't have the proper ID. I think you should ID yourself when you vote. That's just me. Voting is a local, state, and national thing. And if you're going to do it, you should be able to identify yourself properly. And to me, the best way to identify yourself is with the ID card. Now, that's me. I know it sounds a little Republican, but no, it just makes sense. Anybody can come in your name and vote for you. And then you go in there, try to vote, and they say you already voted. And then now they could be pressing charges against you saying you trying to vote twice.
As an ID. That's the kind of innovation that we need.
Yes, well said. Late last month, Congressman, you made headlines for getting involved in a special House election in Ohio that will fill the vacancy left by Health and Human Services Secretary Marsha Fudge. In that race, the frontrunner is Nina Turner, a progressive ally of Bernie Sanders. She was endorsed by the local paper there, the Plain Dealer. Yet you surprised many by endorsing her Democratic primary opponent, Shontel Brown, who's the local Democratic Party chair. Some might look at that and say, this is the Democratic Party establishment trying to prevent the progressive squad from growing. What would you say to them?
I would say simply that I know Shontel Brown. I have been working with her for several years. She is chair of the party out there, the first African-American woman to do so.
Now, Shontel Brown. Let's talk about Shontel Brown a little bit. Shontel Brown is the Democratic chairperson of the Democratic Party. who's happened to be running for Marcia Fudd's seat. She have not stepped down from her position running for that particular position. Now, Nina Turner, she's been a state senator before. She was a staunch Hillary Clinton supporter at one time, and she decided that she wasn't going to support Clinton, and the Clintons hated her for that because to have a black woman not be on the side of Hillary Clinton and side with Bernie Sanders, who in actuality, whether you want to believe it or not, the Clintons can't stand. They can't stand Bernie Sanders, but even though he's still a sheepdog Democrat, they don't like him. And the fact that she began to work with him and get national recognition, they could not stand it. So in order to stop her, both Hillary Clinton and James Clyburn go and push for Ms. Brown. Instead of telling Ms. Brown that she need to step down from her position in the Democratic National Committee, that's like Jamie Harrison running for president and still being the head of the DNC, or Tom Perez running for president. You can't do that. That's wrong. You have to step down, because now you got the ability to, make some things happen that shouldn't happen. That's what happened in Georgia when Stacey Abrams ran against the governor of Georgia. She should have called him out and told him he needed to step down from that position. He was not the governor of Georgia, but the Secretary of State of Georgia. As Secretary of State, you run the election. So when you get robbed of the election, you can't get mad at him. You got to get mad at yourself because you didn't tell her to step down. And Nina Turner should have been telling her that she needs to step down. And everybody running should have been telling Ms. Brown, you need to step down in order to run for that position. But he going to act like he know her. He don't know Ms. Brown. He don't know Ms. Brown. Heck, he try to act like he know Jamie Harrison. He just started to get to know Jamie Harrison. He don't know no Jamie Harrison. It's in that line.
I work with her on behalf of Marcia Fudd at fundraisers. I know her. She asked me would I support her, and I said I would. Now, I always decide what level of support.
She did not ask him to support her. He went out there to support her to stop Nina Turner. Now, that was one of the stories I was going to talk about, to stop Nina Turner movement. Look, I got my problem with Nina Turner. I'm not out here trying to push her. I don't push people to get elected no more unless they're coming from the local grassroots neighborhood level. I'm not in Ohio, and I'm not using my platform to try to get people elected. I'm not. That's personal to me. And what I do personal is personal. I'm not using my platform to get people elected to office. Now, if you want to do that, that's fine, but that's not me. And so I got my problem with Nina Turner, but I know Nina Turner record there in Ohio, that she's been pretty much in the forefront of some of the issues in Ohio that's needed. But that don't mean she's going to be able to do it on another level. And honestly speaking, I still come from the order that I need to know what you're going to do specifically for my black community. And you're not just going to get my support until I know that you're going to do the things that we, the community, demand that you do. We tell you, we give you the baton to run for office. You don't make your baton and tell us, I'm running for office, would you support me? No, we got the baton. We're going to hand it to you. If you want that position, you're going to run with that baton. And Nina Turner has her own baton. Now, what she need to do is to get the baton from us. Because just because you're Nina Turner, you're progressive, and the progressives love you and you're Bernie Crowder and blah, don't mean you're going to get any support from us if we don't know that you're going to be running on the issues that we told you that are happening. Yes, she's black. Yes, she's married to a cop. Her son is a cop. But that don't mean you know what's really happening in the grassroots. Most of these people running for office, they're so stuck into the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that they're pushing more progressive issues than black issues. I have no problem with progressive issues, but progressive issues come second to black issues if you're black. Not against Medicare for all, none of that stuff, but it's not going to come at the expense of what this government owes us. and anybody supporting that and demanding that before the government pay their rightful due to the black community, then I got a problem with you. Because now you're taking our money for your own selfish gain. No, pay your bills, pay what you owe, then you can go do that. And he's sitting up here lying, I know Miss Brown, and I work with Miss Brown with Marsha Fudge on some fundraiser. No, you work with Marsha Fudge on some fundraisers. You didn't work with Miss Brown. She probably happened to just be there to shake your hand.
Support I will make. And until I heard that I was being accused publicly of endorsing Joe Biden and not getting anything for it, I don't know why they accused.
Now you hear that? Now this bothers James Clyburn, JC, Uncle Ruckus. It bothers him. He tried to act like it doesn't bother him. But black people are getting in his face, say, look, you made us go out here and push for this man who we know has been known as a racist and a bigot, pathological liar with rape allegations. You told us to support him. We supported him. And he done hooked up the LGBTQ community. He done hooked up the Asians. He done hooked up Latinos with the DREAM Act and all that. He ain't did nothing for us. And it's your fault. People starting to point the finger. He's going to try to fight this off like, you ain't bothering me. But it bothers him. Not enough. We need to continue to get in his face. But it bothers him. And this statement proves it. Many of some started laughing at him.
And until I heard that I was being accused publicly of endorsing Joe Biden and not getting anything for it, I don't know why.
Let me play that one more time. He heard your voice. He heard the black grassroots voice. And he's seeing that the black grassroots is going to get in the face. He's starting to see that you're not going to tell us what to do, James Clyburn. We're going to tell you what to do. You're not the boss of us. We're the boss of you. You can act like you're a tough guy and that you got so much power as the number one powerful person in Congress, as a minority whip, the number one black man in Congress. You can talk all that stuff and show your credentials all you want. You ain't running jack here in the black community. This is bothering him, because if it didn't, he wouldn't be saying this.
I heard that I was being accused publicly of endorsing Joe Biden and not getting anything for it. I don't know why the accused decided to bring me into it. I was not in it until they brought me in it.
You was in it the moment you went there and sold black people out just to get free support for Joe Biden instead of asking for something in exchange. Let me be quiet.
So when they brought me in it, I decided to participate.
I mean, I guess the context is you have been quite critical of the left of your party. The Democrats lost a net dozen House seats last November. Despite winning the White House, you've been very critical of the party's progressive wing for, quote, sloganeering, you say, with movements like Medicare for All and defund the police. In May, though, Congressman, a focus group study from the polling firm Lake Research Partners found that swing voters paid only a little attention to Republican attacks on socialism or defunding the police, which they viewed as divisive fear-mongering, and that the bigger problem was that many voters didn't have a clear grasp of what the Democratic Party stood for. So is the whole attention on defund the police really a deflection by the party leadership from your own failures? That's
now, Mitty Hassan is pushing back on him. James Clyburn, you can see it in his face, he's about to get pissed off. This so-called defund the police that you're saying the reason people lost was because they ran on defund the police. Folks, nobody lost running on defund the police. Heck, his favorite girlfriend, Jamie Harrison, which is a dude, His girlfriend didn't even run on defund the police, but he's trying to say the reason that this person lost and the reason this person lost is because they run on defund the police. Most people not even saying defund the police. I don't even say that. I say you need to criminalize police if somebody die in their care. And you need to reallocate the funds into community policing. Now he's about to get offended.
That's what your critics on the left would say.
That is absolutely poppycock. I know what I'm talking about.
Did this Negro just say poppycock? That's absolutely poppycock. I know what I'm talking about. Bruh, you can know what you're talking about, but that don't mean you're talking about anything. I know what I'm talking about. Fool, you don't know what you're talking about. Boy, I bet not see that Negro here up in New York, boy. God. He better not ever come to any community endorsing any candidate here in New York. Ooh, I can't wait to get in his face.
I'm out here with the voters every day. I did a town hall meeting last night in Jasper County, South Carolina. I can tell you.
So he's saying he's out here with the voters every day. Anybody out there, have he been out there hanging with y'all? And then he go mention Jasper County, South Carolina. I was out in Jasper County, South Carolina, out there with the people. Man, ain't nothing in Jasper County but a couple of farms and a bunch of cows you can tip over. Get out of here with that crap.
Defund the police is a non-starter, even with black people. And if you don't think that's true, then look at the results of what just happened in New York City's election.
Now, this fool lying again. I don't know any black person that has an issue with defund the police and that it's a non-starter, except these suck-up Democrats that believe everything that these fools say. I don't know one person that got a problem with defund the police. Now, if you're talking about defunding the police, meaning that you need to take away money from the police department in general, then that's a different story. You got to have the funds. You just got to have it reallocated. But here in New York, you could be on a police force. I think the third year you go from 68,000 to 90,000. In about your fifth year, you're right around $100,000 for being a police officer. That's a lot of freaking money, man. That's a lot of freaking money. But this fool gonna sit here and say defund the police is a non-starter with most black people. Woo.
So the proof is in the pudding. I know what I'm talking about. I talk to people every day, and defund the police is a chokehold around the Democratic Party. And
this fool lying through his teeth. Defund the police is a chokehold. Anybody that ran anybody that ran for office on restructuring our criminal justice system and the police department actually won. The sister in Buffalo, she ran on it and won. Cori Bush, she ran on it and won. Jamal Bowman, he ran on it and won. So what the hell are you talking about, James Clyburn?
And let me remind you, if you're going to categorize left and right, I'm on the left of my party. Nobody can call me anything but a progressive.
Folks, this Negro, Republican black Negro, pretty much eccentric, right-leaning Negro, say he's the most left and he's the most progressive. How? What progressive policies that you so-called support, James Clyburn? Because you're so talking about some progressive policies. You don't support no-cost education. Heck, you don't even support reparation for black people, and you make an excuse for that. You don't support cash payments as one form of reparations.
If you wait on cash payments to come out of reparations, you're going to wait forever. It's not going to happen. So what you've got to do, let me talk. Don't put that in my face.
Why are you touching me?
Okay, all right. I'm going to leave you alone.
Cut the check. Tell Nancy Pelosi to cut the check.
Yeah.
You do that for me?
She's the treasurer.
Cut the
Is
check.
she the
Somebody
treasurer?
better cut the check.
Well, you
Reparations are owed, sir.
You talk to the treasurer.
ADOS, you're not going to run away from this issue, Congressman.
Oh, I'm not trying to run away from it.
It seems like you are. You're walking away right now.
Oh. I'm
Cut the check, Congressman. Cut the check. ADOS, you're not going to walk away from this, Congressman. ADOS is everywhere. Cut the check.
You don't support Medicare for all. You don't support a rebus housing program. You don't support even funding for housing for people with low income and things like that. You don't support nothing, James Clyburn, that's on the left, or nothing that's so-called progressive. This fool sound like Joe Biden talking about, I'm the most progressive person that ever ran for office. Oh, come on, man. Are you really? Dude, stop your lying.
That's true. Then look at the results of what just happened in New York City's election. So the proof is in the pudding.
Now, let me stop you. Let's stop on the New York City election. New York City instituted ranked choice voting. New York instituted ranked choice voting, which means you don't have to pick the lesser of two evils. You can actually pick a certain amount of people that you want from office. So I like this person, but if this person don't get enough numbers, then this is my second choice. This is my third choice. So we have ranked choice voting. This thing need to be a thing that happens in general in the United States, because if it takes away the lesser of two evils excuse. And it gives third party the opportunity to gain some traction, because all we can say every day is it'll never happen. It won't work. Our system is not structured for it. Well, if the system is not structured for it, you change the system, and ranked choice voting changed the system. Now, Eric Adams would not be the clear winner in ranked choice voting. The numbers were screwed in the voting tally, and they had to go over it a few times. They just released last week that he's the official winner. And so in ranked choice voting, you have to give up some of your votes. If you don't make the count that you need, if you don't make 50%, then your votes go to another person. But we'll go into that another day. But he's trying to say the New Yorkers is not for defunding the police. Man, New Yorkers is all day for reallocating the funding and putting it in its proper place. New Yorkers all day don't like to see police officers go around here, some police officers, not all of them, walk all high and mighty and making almost six figures but not doing the job or over abusing their position. New Yorkers don't like that. Well, why did they vote for Eric Adams? Well, Yang wasn't a good. Bottom line, there was no good candidates to vote for. All of them was crap. Even the so-called progressive person was crap. So, of course, Eric Adams, being the bureau president of Brooklyn, who has the experience to govern a huge part of New York City, of course, the favor is going to lean toward him because he's very successful in governing Brooklyn. Now, when I say very successful, it doesn't mean he governed the right way. He was just very successful, man. That man was so instrumental in causing gentrification to come in and just totally flip Brooklyn upside down. All the neighborhoods. I just did a video the other day. I was in Brooklyn. I was out there on Flatbush between Caden and Church, and I'm looking at all the businesses that were black owned, most of them foreigners, African owned, and Jamaican owned, all on that street are no longer there no more. They got bought out by the Asians or they got bought out by the Arabs. Or white people in general buying out the property and propping up these high-rise apartments that's unaffordable to the people in the neighborhood to live in. We got a housing program, the lottery system here in New York, that only allow a certain amount of people to be able to live into those buildings at a low cost. But if they mess around and get kicked out of that building, the owner get an opportunity to charge regular rents for that particular apartment that this person had on fixed income. Once they're out of there, they can now go ahead and charge regular rent. So Eric Adams allowed all this stuff to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. There was no good choices in this New York race. None whatsoever. But if you want to think about experience on governing, Eric Adams was to most people the best choice. Not to mine, but, you know. To me, he was the better choice out of the rest of them.
I know what I'm talking about. I talk to people every day, and defund the police is a chokehold around the Democratic Party. And let me remind you, if you're going to categorize left and right, I'm on the left of my party. Nobody can call me anything but a progressive.
I don't call you a progressive. You are not a progressive. See, this is how James Clyburn is. He talks with authority. He's a bully with his words. He talked with so much authority that people will automatically say, well, maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. No, he ain't right. This dude ain't no progressive. This dude ain't even on the left. Heck, this dude is not even a center Democrat. He's not even a centrist. This guy was instrumental in pushing Joe Biden's crime bill. Instrumental. So don't let that authority talk fool you. You're not a progressive. You're not a progressive. You're black, don't get me wrong, but you're not cultured black. You're not cultured. You haven't been around these politicians so long that you literally are one of them. And you don't care about the black community. All you care about is the party. And folks, defund the police, that was the term that came up with the Black Lives Matter situation in Minnesota when they called out the mayor there, and the sister said, look, we're for abolishing the police. No, I ain't for abolishing police. I'm sorry. Y'all might not agree. I think we need people to serve and protect. Now, I believe we should have our own people represented in the neighborhood to serve and protect us. I also believe that we should be allowed to serve and protect our own communities first and foremost. But the real language here is punishing the police. Punishing. There should be accountability for the police officers that do wrong to the community. And there should be harsh punishment, just like there should be harsh punishment to anybody that do wrong to the community. So the language should be changed. It's not defund the police. We can talk about reallocating some of the funds, investing more in community policing, putting a mental health center in the police department, because being in that position can cause mental stress and breakdowns and things like that. I know, because my ex-wife was a police officer and she had been through numerous breakdowns. Always on the edge, always paranoid. They need mental help. And also, there should be accountability if somebody died at the hand or is harmed tremendously at the hand of a police officer. Now, what do you want to call that? I don't know. But that is what most people are talking about, not this defund the police stuff that he's making up. He's making this up and trying to make it seem like everybody was running on that, and they were not.
And been one all of my life. Met my wife in jail, being progressive. So
he met his wife in jail, being progressive.
Come on.
And I appreciate that. But Congressman, just on the specific issues, because I know you care strongly about this, when you say defund the police, I'm not talking about the popularity of it. I'm talking about whether it hurt your party. None of the candidates in the November House elections ran on defund the police. You mentioned
Facts.
New York. Not a single New York mayoral candidate ran on defund the police. So I'm not sure why. I mean, I know why Republicans keep going on and on about it. I'm not sure why you seem to think it's such a big problem for your party.
Ask Jimmy Harrison, who was running for the United States Senate here in South Carolina.
Now, folks, Jamie Harrison did not run on defund the police. Jamie Harrison is another Democratic Barack Obama suck up, kiss the butt cheeks, suck up. He tried to run for DNC chair and lost. Keith Ellison was running away with the DNC chairmanship to the point that Barack Obama, just like he did with the Joe Biden election, got involved and caused things to change on behalf of Tom Perez. Tom Perez wasn't even running. He wasn't even running for DNC chair. Barack Obama told him to run for DNC chair and rallied everybody around him instead of Keith Ellison. Why? Because Keith Ellison was also another person that was considered a real progressive. Considered. Anybody that looked like a real progressive, the Democratic Party ain't going to give them no power. They're afraid of progressive. They're afraid of so-called Democratic Socialists or Social Democrats, whatever you want to call them. They're afraid of that. Why? Because most of them are staunch capitalists and they're there to get rich. And James Clyburn is rich. He's the biggest contributor or the biggest receiver of big pharma money than anybody in the Senate. So you ain't going to ever he is never going to sign anything that's going to help you with prescription. He's not going to sign anything that's going to give you free health care because he's in the pocket of the pharmaceutical industry.
Just ask him. Ask Abigail Spanberger up in Virginia why I said it.
She didn't run on no defund the police. You lied.
It's a real problem.
It's not a problem because nobody running on it.
In 1960, burn, baby, burn.
And folks, political parties are always sloganary. Change you can believe in. Slogan. The bridge to 21st century. Slogan. Everybody run for office has a freaking slogan, man. You ran for office, you have a slogan, James Clyburn. Everybody got slogans.
Destroyed our movement. And defund the police will do the same thing to progressive movements today. This kind of sloganeering does us no good.
I take your point on sloganizing. I guess the problem is I watched a lot of Republican attack ads last November. They did mention defund the police. They also mentioned Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure you wouldn't say Nancy Pelosi's to blame for you losing. They mentioned corruption. The problem is Republicans are going to attack you always as socialists and lefties. And I think the problem becomes, are you kind of agreeing with their attack on your own party by talking so much about it? I guess that's the discussion. Last word to you, Congressman.
I know what I feel. I know.
That nigga froze up.
One single Democrat to tell me that Nancy Pelosi is a problem. I've had plenty Democrats to tell me.
How you gonna say not one person say Nancy Pelosi is not a problem? Man, the whole squad, even though I'm not a fan of the squad, they don't like Nancy Pelosi. The only reason they kissing her behind because of the power that Nancy Pelosi got. A lot of them ran and got positions of power running on the fact that you got these corporate Democrats that doesn't have a heart for actually doing things for the people. This guy right here, man.
Defund the police is a problem. So, look, I only know what the facts are.
Those are not facts, dude. Those are not facts.
We'll have to, we'll carry on this conversation. It's a fact.
And look at him with that smile. That's the smile of a lion. Look like one of them old lion evil cats be on the cartoons. Look at that smile. Freaking sellout. Oh, freaking James Clyburn, man, I tell you. Folks in South Carolina, you got to do something about this dude. I'm not in South Carolina. I can't do anything about it. My brother lived there. My sister-in-law lived there. My niece lived there. Got a few friends there. The Negro need to go, man. He's holding y'all back. He's lying in your face. He needs to be gone. And right now, this fool sits as the most powerful black man in the Senate. Now, how is he the most powerful black man in the Senate? He only get one freaking vote. He can't whip up votes. And black people need to stop letting this Negro Pied Piper you into the voting booth. And for the black people who are in his face now saying, look, we pushed this man into office and we have gotten none yet, you need to put the, I wouldn't say, and I don't mean literal, you need to put the pressure on him. You need to stranglehold him, not literal, but you need to stranglehold him to make him bend the knee to you. Y'all need to put fear in him, because y'all think that if we don't sit here and support him, then we can't get the resources that we need. What resource that Negro giving y'all down there? A fish fry? Twice a year y'all get a fish fry with some cheese grits? He'll hold a town hall in a town that you don't even go to. He's not holding a town hall in Raleigh, Durham, nowhere land like that. It's these small towns. And it's this black man whose will and this power pretty much represents small town South Carolina. But he's not coming to Durham, Raleigh. Oh, that's North Carolina. I'm sorry. But he's not coming to Columbia, Charleston, nothing like that. You don't see him there. Anyway, James Clyburn sent up there lying through his teeth, and then he got the nerve to get a little upset because somebody pushed back on him. Look, all you news reporters need to push back on him. And whenever he come to town, you need to be in his face. He's not from New York, but if I ever find out that dude, I ordered a mic just for him, for me to put it in his face. I'm putting it in his face so... I got some questions, bro. And I'm going to call you out on them. I'm not usually that type of dude, but this guy is a detriment to the black community. He is a hinderer and a blocker to black progress. And yet black people keep voting him in. I'm glad some of us are waking up to that fool.